So I've been struggling to work out the West Bay. The West Bay?
The West Bay. It's a lovely place this time of year. Hi, this is Max and I'm Sophie and welcome back to our van build.
This week we are looking at the install of our diesel heater, our Bobil heater that heats our water off of our diesel heater, and also our coolant line so we can heat our water from our engine.
Because we're well clever. We're actually housing our diesel heater and our Bobil heater underneath our van. And that means the first thing we need to do is build a box to protect them from the elements. So behind me you can see all the stuff that we pulled out of our van right at the beginning of our build. Leftover metal, and we're going to use that for our heater box. So now we've drawn our plans, we need to measure under the van so we don't build a box that's too big. So let's go do that. So ages ago, like right at the start of our build, we put in some unistrut in this area that we knew was going to hold our diesel heater casing. So Max is just under the van trying to get the exact measurements that we can use, and we hope it's all big enough to hold the diesel heater and the Bobil heater all together. How are you doing, Max?
Good. Do you want me to show you the unistrut? Oh, I dropped the camera. So they're the rear set of wheels. Here's one set of it. The other one's here.
We were also quite clever because we dipped the diesel tank whilst we had the floor out. So the wire that you saw there, or the pipe that you saw there, is our diesel feed. So we're going to run our diesel heater off our main diesel tanks. But we were also clever enough to not dip it right to the bottom of the tank. So hopefully we'll never run out of diesel because we've left the diesel heater on. You see, we're not just pretty faces.
Are we pretty faces?
You're a pretty face.
Am I?
Yeah, the prettiest of faces. That's why I've done this scene with you with your head under the van. So we have our tape measure out and our diesel heater because we're trying to figure out how much space it needs for a box.
Yeah, so we've got a rough set of dimensions for the length that we want. We thought we wanted about 200 square, but I think we're going to go ever so slightly larger. So go at about 210, 220, especially on the height, just to be able to, when we take a side panel off, be able to put the diesel heater in and out if we need to take it out to service it without taking the whole box off. So that's what we're going to build.
So now the box is designed, we're going to start marking out some checker plate. I feel like I'm in the bottom of the ocean or something.
You sound a bit like, you know, the kind of people that make awesome sounds for movies. And then there was some thunder. So we've got our checker plate up on the table. What's the first step?
Measure.
Measure.
We've been thinking about what's the best way to cut this. Now we've got our nice line on here. And the last time we cut checker plate, we did it with an angle grinder.
Yeah.
And it spat crap everywhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
So what we're going to use this time?
I'm not entirely sure it's going to be any better, but we're going to try the jigsaw with a metal bit in it.
So it turns out a jigsaw does cut through sheet metal. It's cold. It's so cold.
So we've now jigsawed out all of these bits of metal, and we have the 6 pieces that we need. They're all a slightly different shape and size just to accommodate our diesel heater. We don't have the skills or competence to bend metal, otherwise we would have built a nice kind of box out of one piece of metal, but instead we've got some of this 25mm aluminium angle extrusion stuff. So we're gonna rivet these together onto the, using the angle kind of on each corner to build up our box piece like that. we've had a slight change of concept. We did a bit of a test of a first corner fold by just cutting and bending. As you can see, it created quite a curved, wasteful 90-degree angle. So instead we've decided to cut a 90-degree chunk out, like we have done here, which creates quite a solid 90-degree angle that's quite square to what we've cut. So we're going to go with that method. So now we're going to build this framework and rivet it all together.
I have to say, I didn't have faith, but it's looking pretty cool now. It looks really cool. The other side looks cooler.
It looks better than I thought it would.
And he was stropping so hard earlier. So once we've drilled holes in both the checker plate and the banding strip, we stick in some little rivets, and then Max, being very strong, uses the rivet gun.
Also being very strong, just squeezing. Good for something, eh?
Wow, that one really pinged off. Little rivets. Looking good. It looks really cool.
So, that is the majority of the box riveted together. And I'm pretty impressed with that. What do you think?
It looks really awesome.
Next step is just some little final pieces on these four corners that will hold it all together. And then, I'm very happy.
We've made such a mess.
You've made such a mess.
What are these for?
What are those? Now we have the box built with a slight lid. It is looking like this. It's actually going to sit like that. So we have a side section that we can take off to access the diesel heater and Bobil heat exchanger and everything else in there in case we need to. So we've put this edging on here. What's it called? Aluminium angle extrusion.
Good word.
And we've got some rivnuts that we're going to drill the holes into these, place the rivnuts in, tighten them up so they, quite like a rivet, the back bit shrinks and it locks in place. And then we'll have some bolts and some little locking washers on the front plate, and attach the front plate to the rest of the box.
Time to drill the holes in our lid piece. It's not really a lid piece, it's a side piece.
Side lid.
Side lid.
We were hoping, because we'd watched on YouTube a bit of a DIY method involving a bolt and a nut and just tightening it up, because we were trying to avoid buying a rivnut tool just for the 8 that we're putting in, but it has failed, so we're looking at other options and we might end up buying a proper tool to do it with, like we should have in the first place. So I've got one more thing to try and get these rivnuts in without a proper tool. I'm just going to run to Screwfix to pick up the things that we need. Once we've done that, we're going to look at putting the equipment within the box. So that might be what we get onto this afternoon if we can't get these rivnuts in. So I'm both very happy, lucky and excited because after our method with our bolt and nut that I was trying to do a DIY version with some spanners, I've bumped into our neighbour next door who has very kindly let us borrow a proper rivnut tool. So now we can smash these in nice and easily. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to place each of the riv nut in these pre-drilled holes that we've done, and then we're going to use the tool to tighten them up in place. So we're simply going to wind the riv nut onto the tool here. I say simply, I hope this works. We're going to place it within one of the holes, and then all I need to do is squeeze like so. And we have a nice tightly locked on riv nut. You can see we've gone from this, which is the riv nut that hasn't been done, to this, where the back side of it has shriveled up like a rivet would and been pulled nice and tight, so that's not going anywhere. Now I just need to do the rest of them. So here is our finished box with that front face bolted on. Really happy with how that looks. All riveted on, and then with this access panel that we can unbolt. Now we need to look at fitting the diesel heater within it. We are back. What do you think of my finished box?
It's a lovely box, Max. Lovely box.
And what are we doing today?
So today we have to cut the holes into the box that we've just finished to fit the diesel heater in.
So we're going to need...
We need air in, air out. We need electrical cables in and out, and we need Bobil heater lines in and out.
And also the combustion, air intake and exhaust out, which are the holes in the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Luckily the diesel heater came with a plate to help mount it. We're going to use that as a bit of a template. We might still use it, but we're going to use it as a bit of a template of where to cut the holes within the box, which will make things easier.
I swear all our videos are us cutting holes and stuff. So now all the holes are cut, we pray that it fits.
She's in.
Yes! Look at that! Well done.
Fits perfectly, actually. Well done.
That was my drawing skills.
Don't well done me. Well done you. You marked it out, not me. So now they've got this bolted on, all in position, and we've just taken some measurements to mark up the exact point that we want to drill through for the intake of the air that needs to be heated up. And then we're going to look at assembling the Bobil that's going to sit in here, and then we'll need to put another hole on the other end, which is the heat that's going to go out to the van. Now that we've cut our hole for our intake, for our air to be heated, we now need to cut the hole on the other end for the hotter air. We now need to cut the hole on the other end for the hot air to come out of. Something's melting. I don't know if it's my flesh. So we have disconnected the pins out of the head of the cable on the main wiring loom, so we can pass them through into the diesel heater box and have that connection on the inside. We've made this size hole, and we're going to use a proper cable gland to bolt onto the side of that and pass that cable through, just to ensure a nice tight watertight seal, as well as stopping any of the cables rubbing on the metal edge as we're driving. So now that we've installed the grommet, we're going to take the end off and pass all the cables through. So now that we've got all of them in, we're going to leave that loose And we've pushed them all quite a way through, so we have some good length of tail, and now we're going to connect this back up to the end block.
What did you do to it?
Black gunk all over it. This side's alright. Done a nice neat seal on the join.
So neat.
Just don't look on the other side. We took it home to do it because it was so cold here and we wanted it to be a bit warmer. And the one tube of silicone I took home had to split down the nozzle. So it just kind of, instead of coming out the end beautifully, it came out like this. So it's a bit of a mess. But hey, it's going under the van. No one's going to see it. It'll be a eat.
It'll be fine. Next thing we need to do is actually hold it up under the van and make sure it fits. And we couldn't do that yesterday because we were doing some bodywork stuff. Right in the exact place where it goes. Let me show you. So the box lives like here under the van. But we now no longer have a rusty hole in our door. Look at this!
That's so smooth.
That's amazing. The rust lines are still there. But it is much smoother than before.
Thanks, Jason. Sophie's dad helped us out a lot yesterday.
Yeah. So we've held it in place, and it's a bit of an awkward one because it's going to be wonky. We're going to have to sit it at a wonk under the van. So we need to drill some holes in here and kind of add a wonk here. They're really hard measurements to get right. So fingers crossed for us. After many measurements, we now have 4 holes in the top of our heater box. So touch everything wood that this is actually gonna fit underneath our van now. Let's go try.
There we have the box of the diesel heater fitted in place. Now we're 100% happy with the positioning of it. We're going to fix the diesel and bobble heaters within the box, and then we're going to reinstall the box and get it like fixed in place properly, all locked off, and then we're going to fit the ducting and the exhaust and the air intake in place.
So about today. Today has not gone well so far.
We forgot our lunch.
And we overslept. So we've literally got a couple minutes up here, then we have to drive back home again to pick our lunch back up.
But today, what are we doing today?
Who knows what we're doing today?
Yesterday we dry fitted our diesel heater box in its entirety with the lid and everything under the van. We've left it under the van, so we need to start by dropping it again. We're then going to install the diesel heater and the bobble heater. Yes. And the internal ducting and stuff.
Yes.
We're then going to fix it up under the van permanently to the unistrut. Instead of using the bolts that we were using just to test the fitting of the diesel heater box, we're actually going to use some of this threaded bar that we have left over from when we were doing our unistrut under the van. So I don't know if you can quite see that, but the first one we're going to put in is going to go in the centre of this hole here on the unistrut. So we're going to start with a spring washer within the channel, which is a bit awkward to do, but we're going to put it in lengthways and then we turn it within the channel to get it into place. What we're actually going to do is not turn it yet, start getting the threaded bar through, and then kind of use the threaded bar to our advantage. We do this in much more detail in our unistrut video, so if you need to know any detail of it, check it out there.
Right, threaded bar measured, about to get cut.
Cut.
The reason we added 2 little nuts on before we cut was so that we could pull them off and it will sort of re-thread the thread. Basically, when you're cutting this sort of stuff, it loses a thread really quickly, doesn't it? Even like clamping it to the desk can wreck it. So doing this means it kind of re-threads it.
Now we've got these 2 more lengths of threaded bar cut. We're going to do them in the same way with the channel nuts, square washers, and then the nut and nylock on top. What's your favourite part about being under the van?
I hate everything about being under the van. Even if you've like jacked it up, I still feel super claustrophobic.
So what's your favourite part of being under the van?
Nothing.
Not even getting out?
No.
So now we've adjusted those bars under the van, the next step is to fit everything within our diesel heater box so it's ready to be mounted.
And funnily enough, the first thing that's going in our diesel heater box is the diesel heater. We think the next step will be attaching the ducting to the Bobil heater, because it has to like screw in, and then we can put the whole unit in, because we think it'll be really difficult to screw it in when it's already attached. Who knows?
The ducting pushes into the Bobil heater best if it's all spread out at the end. But you have to be really careful not to squeeze too hard, because the ducting's quite flimsy and you can just smush it, because it's kind of a paper and foil and plastic coated thing.
Max is now cutting. He forgot to film me putting it in. I pushed it in about, or screwed it on about 2 centimeters.
Yeah, I think so.
So now
Sophie does a lot more than you all get to see. I just forget to film it every time.
It makes it look like I don't do anything, and I do a lot. Okay, here we go.
Oh, so now you can see that.
Oh, very nice.
Where Sophie beautifully screwed it in.
A bit of a wonk on your cut there.
I mean, that is straight.
What is that?
I'll get some scissors at a time. I was following a line.
What do we think, guys?
Beautiful, that's what we think. So I've been struggling to work out the West Bay. The West Bay?
The West Bay. It's a lovely place this time of year.
So I've been struggling to work out the best way to fit the Bobil heater into this box, which isn't a problem you normally have with the Bobil heater, but it is one that we're having because we're trying to undersling it in this box that we've made. And Sophie's just had the genius idea that if we mount it onto a little bit of wood, then what do we do?
Well, it's only genius if it works.
It'll work. Mount the Bobil heater on a bit of wood first, and then mount the wood to the box. And that'll stop us having the issues we're having.
The Bobil heater is 3D printed, which is fantastic, but it's not strong enough to take self-tapping screws through the metal, so we don't want to break it and then lose our only way to anchor it in. So that's why we're looking for other solutions. We are having all kinds of fun today, huh?
Mm-hmm. Always.
So the screws we tried putting the wood in with were too short, and they went through, but they wouldn't hold the wood steady. So we've now got to find something else, and it's getting late, and we're getting cold and annoyed. All good.
So we've upgraded our wood to a slightly bigger piece. We've bolted through to hold it in place.
Yeah, those self-tapping screws did not work. We couldn't get those to work.
And now Sophie is just screwing the Bobil heater to the wood.
I'm trying to.
Much better plan. Well done. You've got so many layers on it, it's hard to see past them to see what
I
you do.
literally, yeah, I have like the biggest wool belly. Okay, it's going now.
We're going to plug the electrics together.
beautiful clicking sound. Positive. So the final step before we can finish the diesel heater is to get the box mounted back up underneath the van. We can then run the ducting and the exhaust and those kind of things. So we're going to mount it back in there now, permanently.
So elegant.
When am I not? Riddle me that.
How's it going?
Good. I'm just trying to feel my way around what I'm trying to do.
Have the threaded bars gone in?
Yes.
Yes!
The two on that end have, anyway.
And both now have nuts on. So now we need to try the ones at this end.
Try and get them in. And there you can just about see our diesel heater box installed under our van. And there's our Bobil and diesel heater within it. And that is all for this week. Catch us next week when we are looking at the ducting and electrics and exhaust pipe and bubble heater and lines and all those other fun things to run to that box.
It's going to be exciting. And as always, thank you so much for joining us. It would mean the world if you subscribed. It keeps us happy and motivated.
Sure does.
Drop any comments that you have down below, any questions or tips that you have that will help us make an awesome house on wheels. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.